This term that came out of some of the reviews after Cannes or at Cannes of the film being camp or quoting tabloid television movies or soap operas and so forth. No, it was not anything that I was trying to do at all. And when you watch the film, there's a very austere, restrained camera through almost so much of the film, so many scenes in single shot that don't cut.
How do you choose your roles?
I want to find a character that's difficult to, on the surface, understand.
I love the film. It's so much fun, but so much to think about as well. It's really provocative and sexy and weird and difficult. And of course, it's your 5th collaboration now with Julianne Moore. Did you read the script and instantly think of her?
No, I didn't instantly think of her. Natalie Portman sent me the script. The script came to her and her producing team. And it was a script that was already getting sort of earmarked as something special. This was at the height of COVID. Everything was shut down in the United States. So there was a lot of speculation and stuff swapping around. Natalie and I had discussed, there was another project she sent me years ago. And so her interest in wanting to work with me had been this opening that meant a lot to me. And I looked forward to an opportunity to do so, read this script, and it sort of cut through the noise of a lot of stuff I was looking at. I had other projects that I was developing at the time, but this one I knew meant something special to me. And so I started to talk to Natalie about it. And the very things that were exciting to me about it were exciting to her. She was also really interested in delightedly playing with people's projections. She plays an actress in the film that people would think, is this really the way Natalie Portman is? And the way she talked about it and the way she talked about the moral gray areas that we both were intrigued by reminded me of somebody I know very well. And here was this second lead role of a woman hovering around 60 years old. It didn't take long for me to go to Julianne. And so I sort of slipped it to her first so she could get a sense, feel her out first.
It's such a pleasure to meet you.
You are so sweet. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you for doing this. It's so generous.
Well, I want you to tell the story right, don't I?
Apart from the fact that she's just a great actress, what do you find so compelling about Julianne? What keeps you coming back to her?
She's drawn to these kinds of characters that unnerve us, that perplex us, that are hard to reach, to fully assess. And as she and I have explored in films of mine, characters who are not in positions of power in their lives or in their domestic stories or statuses as women, whether it's contemporary or not. She is an actor for the medium of film, how she understands the lens. There's things that happen that I can't even see in the room when we're shooting them with her, that I only see later on film or when I watch the dailies or when I watch what we've done. And so there's this sense of understanding, a restraint and an understatement that again was so fully formed when I first met her that was pretty remarkable. And that's just continued to branch out in so many different ways over the years and so many different great performances.
Yeah.
What would make a 36-year-old woman have an affair with a 7th grader?
You've made films before about people who are kind of socially persecuted for their relationships, interracial love in Far From Heaven and lesbianism in Carol. And this is about that, but with a very different kind of moral stakes and a much more thorny way of navigating that story. Where did your sympathies kind of lie in the film, and did they kind of shift as you thought about it?
To be honest, it didn't change greatly from how I felt when I read it. It's very ingeniously built, where we think that we're going to trust Elizabeth. She's going to be our proxy. She'll be our reliable narrator. She's coming into this crazy fortress that's been built around this family from that tabloid event. And of course, as her interview process and her sort of investigation into the story starts to reveal more about her, or as much about her as it does about Gracie, we start to question our faith in that character. And in some ways, that draws unexpected sympathies for Gracie. Talks about her being so deluded in love with this boy and weeping. You know, you're like, this woman just has completely abused her power and her authority and her age with this young boy. But you also find yourself strangely and surprisingly sympathetic.
Your name is always kind of identified with the new queer cinema movement of the 90s in America, and it's obviously a lot has changed since then. What does being a queer filmmaker mean to you today?
Today, all of a sudden, everything we thought we had accomplished is suddenly fair game in a newly rabid, far-right conservative party that can take full aim at the themes of the issues, the political and cultural issues and cultural politics around trans and gay and LGBTQ experience and tolerance or whatever. You know, it's just absurd where we are. What's so difficult at times in our political climate, and you see this echoed, of course, or matched in Western Europe and Eastern Europe, of course. It's so dire. It's such an end of interesting discussion. We're back to the frontline fights over the most basic rights and tolerance around people. I thought we'd gained headway and that we could get into continuing to explore gay and lesbian lives on film. And if anything, it's just like back to the conservative voice that I confronted with Poison, my first feature film.
I know you're working next on a gay love story with Joaquin Phoenix. What can you tell us about that?
Not a whole lot more, except that it's set in LA in 1937-38. It's an interracial relationship that very unexpected. These two people who don't really have experiences or identities that would prepare them for what they encounter with each other. Coming out of a sort of corrupt Los Angeles. Joaquin's character is a cop in a very, and this is all true about LA at this particular moment, where there was the DA and the police department and the mayor were incredibly corrupt, sort of triad of power, and the mayor was ultimately recalled in 38. But Joaquin came to me with these ideas and these sort of instincts, and we started to talk, and I did research for the background story. I brought in my friend John Raymond, who had adapted Mildred Pierce with me, who's a dear friend. Like, oh wow, how fun, we can do a detective story. We've never done that before. It was initially a kind of meditation on Chinatown with these changes around this queer element to it. And we all three were just swapping ideas, and it kept getting more about the sexual and romantic relationship between these men. And so it almost became more meditation on, you know, Last Tango than on Chinatown in the end. I'm really excited about it. It's because it all emerged so organically, and it came from his urgings, and he really was pushing me into these darker places that I haven't really explored between a gay male love story in so long, right? I can't wait to get back to work after this experience I just had on May December that was such a positive one creatively for me. And the relationships and collaborations I had on it were so revitalizing for me. And I would love to bring that energy right back into this next one.